这周我出差去北京，有幸采访了 Chris Sanders 导演。你可能没听过他的名字，但你一定看过他的作品。他参与或导演的作品包括《驯龙高手》、《星际宝贝》、《疯狂原始人》、《狮子王》、《小美人鱼》、《花木兰》等等。可以说，我们很多人真的是看着他的作品长大。他上一次来中国还是10年前，这次来是为了宣传他即将在9月20号上映的新电影《荒野机器人》。这部电影讲述了一个流落荒岛的机器人和一只狐狸一起养大了一只大雁的故事，是一部任何年龄段的人看都会产生强烈共鸣的电影。我看完点映后，和导演聊了20分钟关于创作、关于电影背后的故事。
How are you?
I'm fine. I feel so happy to have this opportunity to talk with you because I really growing up seeing your works. And my son's favorite movie is Lilo and Stitch and The Lion King.
Fantastic.
And since we just watched the movie yesterday, so first I want to talk movie plot with you. I also watched one of your previous interviews about how to train your dragon on YouTube. And in that interview, you said, do not mind treating creative process to be mechanical, almost like building a car. And do not worry, it is not glamorous. So I want to know, how do you apply this idea to this movie? And in this movie, what aspects do you think is mechanical, and which ones do you think is more glamorous?
Yeah, you're talking about the underlying story structure, and I get very excited about the surfaces of things. I get excited about character interactions and events, and in the past, have been very distracted by that and I write things and I think, oh, this is great, but then later on, it doesn't really fit. And one of the things I've learned, particularly on my experience with the making of How to Train Your Dragon, we broke that down to the framework, and we ignored any of the specific events and characters. We just looked at the framework of the story because we had a limited amount of time to get that thing right.
Yeah,
and we had to get it right. Yeah, we had to get it right the first time. So we looked at it structurally, and I really learned a lot through that experience because I think I always felt like, well, if you do that, you're somehow going to degrade the emotional. I don't know why I thought emotionally it might be degrading, but it's far from. It's the opposite. So if you look at a story structurally to begin with, and get things in order and create a good structure, then you can go in and really start looking at the emotional things and the character things that you're going to put on top of it. And you may have to change the structure. It's not like it's written in stone, but I think that simplicity is strength. And if you work on the structure, you're going to clean things up and get a good path. Then when you do go in and start working on the characters and working on those things, then I think it works a lot better because you've got a solid base to work on. I think it was George R.R. Martin said some writers are gardeners and some are architects. And I always tended to be more of a gardener, meaning I jump in and start writing and just start writing characters, and I let it lead me places. There's some benefits to that, definitely, because I think you get a real organic pathway, but you can end up at a dead end and you get stuck story-wise, and then you can't get yourself out of it, and you could waste a lot of time doing that. So, and I've definitely had that experience in the past just with things I've written. So now I try to discipline myself, look at the structure, and then for me the fun part is really doing the characters.
I think you are good at storytelling, and you are like the gardener. And next I want to talk about some the movie themes which resonates me most, because there's a line in the movie that really inspires me and encourages me a lot. It's said by the long leg in the movie. He said, where his wings end, his heart can pay the balance.
If where his wings end, his heart can pay the balance.
In the movie, the robot Rose is considered to be defective, and also the bread beer is also called Rand. Both of them seems to represent the minorities in their own way. So after I watching the movie, I think beyond showing the maternal love or family love between Rose and bread beer, do you also want to encourage the minorities? In real life, how do you think people who are not talented to find their own pathway?
Absolutely. Everybody loves a success story with somebody who wasn't supposed to like achieve something, and I really liked that line because I thought a lot about it as I wrote it, and I really wanted a moment to explain why Bright Bill can do things that he's not supposed to do, and because it's just his drive. He's got a strong drive. He's got a strong heart, and I think it's about these underdog characters. I feel like there are very few people that probably think that they're really great at things. I think everybody secretly thinks I'm not really that good at this. I wish I was better at this. They're better than I am, right? And I think that's a very common thing. And I think that our own self-doubts are things that we have to like find a way to deal with.
Is that a reflection of your own growth?
I
know because I know you have transmitted the era of hand-drawn animation to digital animation. If there's a reflection of your own growth.
Oh yeah, absolutely. 100%. When I got to CalArts, that's where I studied animation, and that's where I went to college. And I remember my very first day, I was sitting next to other people who drew, and up to that point, like I was the best artist in school always. They're like, "Oh, Chris, you should draw the the poster for our dance or whatever." And now suddenly I was sitting with people who were way better than I was, and it was so intimidating. And I immediately thought, I don't belong here. I was sitting right next to an artist named Kelly Asbury, who, very good friend of mine, and he went on to do amazing films and things, and we worked together for a long time. But he could just draw anything.
Wow.
And I would sit there and I'd watch him, and like I would struggle to get something, and it would take me a long time, and he could just, he drew with a pen, an ink pen, which that's a lot of confidence. So he would just he would try anything with an ink pen. I'm like, and I just wanted to pack everything up and go home. I was like, I don't belong here. So yeah, that was my first experience, diving into the deep end of a pool of artists, and I felt like I was not good enough.
Thanks for your story. I think it encourages me a lot. Were there any moments in your family that had a significant impact on your career choice?
Yes. There were two things I could say. Like, oddly enough, I was sitting in my hotel room. There are things about my hotel room, the way the furniture, and there's just something about it aesthetically that really reminds me of the house that I grew up in. And I was sitting and I was drawing at a desk this morning, and that's how I started to draw. Like, I just sat at a desk and drew. I didn't have a special drawing table or anything like that, but I remembered that my dad, I thought he drew really well. And he said to me one day, he said, "There's a limit to what you can build, but you can draw anything." And that really stuck with me. Yeah, I think that would be a significant moment. And I had another one, I just forgot it. I'll try to remember.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, but I remember the second, but I remember the other thing. So the most important thing that probably ever happened to me artistically was I was at the end of high school, and I had no idea what I was going to do. My brother was extremely smart, like sort of unusually smart, and he had all these colleges that wanted him to go, and I was not that smart. I wasn't as good as he was, and I didn't know where to go. And my grandmother was actually reading the newspaper, and she said, she read an article about how Disney Studios was running out of artists because they were aging and they were retiring, and there was this school called CalArts that was training people to be animators and to work in animation. And I suddenly knew the one and only place I would apply would be that school. So that changed the course of everything. If she hadn't read that article, there would be no Lilo and Stitch, there'd be no Wild Robot. But yeah, that changed the course of my life. That one article she read.
I will definitely tell this story to my son, because my son loves painting very much. The dialogue in the movie that resonates with me most is when Rose said, "I don't have the programming of being a mother," and the pigtail says, "No one does." I think all of my friends and watched this movie, and we were deeply moved by this sentence. I think it's such a profound emotions in the movie. This movie does not only shows the Brad Bill's growth, but it also shows the a woman's journey of becoming a mother, because no one is born to be a mother. And as a male director, may I ask you, how do you capture these delicate emotions? Were there any specific sources of this inspiration?
Absolutely. I think becoming a parent is what
it's different from
it's different than you see in the movies a lot of the time, and in greeting cards and things.
Yes.
Because I remember specifically, like, when a baby is on the way, everything's focused on you, and everybody's very interested. And then eventually there comes a time when you're probably going to be in a hospital, and you've got lots of people, and there's a lot of activity and focus. And then eventually they wheel you out the front door, and they slam the door behind you, and they go, "Good luck," slam, and you're like, what do I do now, right? And there's that moment of like, there's no manual for this. And then you immediately start like improvising, right? And that was what I was really calling upon, is that whole thing.
In the movie, Rose seems capable of doing anything, including building houses, learning languages, and finding food. And however, she seems to struggle with emotions, but finally, he learns how to love and save all the animals. This scene reminded me of Asimov's 3 laws of robotics. The first law is a robot may not harm a human being, or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. So my question is, how did you balance the technology aspect with the human emotions of love and kindness? Because it seems that kindness seems to be a survival skill in this movie. Was there a specific message you want to convey to the audience?
Absolutely. Of course, the kindness as a survival skill was something that Peter Brown revealed to us when we had our first conversation, that was what was on his mind when he wrote the book. And I thought that was a very important theme to put into the story.
That's very important.
Yeah, and I think that the non-harming of humans, that seems like, and I had read the very same thing, and that just seems like, that makes sense. That Roz, he told us that the Roz in the book was designed to be a helper robot, and it was designed to work and live amongst human beings. So it would occupy human spaces, which is why she looks humanoid. And certainly there are probably like Roombas and other robots that look very different, but she's specifically supposed to work right next to human beings. So she has that humanistic vibe, and we didn't want her to be like a machine. We didn't want her to be completely flat and like eventually develop emotions. She starts with some level of emotional response.
Yes, I noticed his emotions through his eyes. The structure is different.
Isn't that amazing what the animators can get out of that?
Yes.
I was really focused on the eyes because we wanted to give her no mouth, because we really wanted her to be like, get her emotions out through voice and through pantomime, through her body. Except for her eyes, I really wanted her. This is going to sound strange. I wanted her eyes to look expensive. I thought, oddly enough, if you broke one and you had to replace it, I think you'd be like, oh no, it costs like $200,000. Like that should be the equivalent of like a Panavision lens or a Zeiss lens or something. Like it should look really heavy and expensive. But just the movement that the animators would use and the articulation inside the eyes is astounding, I think, what comes out of that. I was even surprised. I was hoping that we would get some sort of emotion out of it, but they did such a good job, just the way they moved them and the timing of when they did it.
Show some emotions. Although maybe a robot cannot have emotions, but I can also feel the emotions from his eyes.
I agree.
Yes, I read the novel and also I watched the movies, and I noticed there are some differences between the novel and the movie. Especially after watching the movie, I asked my son, "What's your favorite character?" I was surprised to find that he likes the fox.
Swimming's easy. I can teach him the way my mom taught me. Swim!
He likes the fox. So I also noticed the fox in the movie was enriched and developed a lot, and I think it's really interesting and meaningful. So my question is, how did you balance the character, and what's your reason for some changes about fox? There's a thing my son he likes most is the Rose removed the quill from porcupine. So how do you balance these changes?
That's you actually were right in the right spot for this question. That's a really good example of a change that we made. We wanted to keep the moment, but we changed it because in the book things sometimes happen very quickly. And when she pulled the quills out of his face, they became friends almost immediately in the book. And we wanted to really earn that more. We wanted that to feel more I think a little more realistic for a fox to like befriend somebody like that or even approach them, because we had to keep in mind, like, he's never seen anything like Roz. So as an animal, he would be terrified of that thing. So I think given the first opportunity, he would get away. And that's what we wanted to do. So overall, I was trimming some things back. partially for pace, so that things didn't feel too rushed. And another reason to trim some characters back is to give other characters more time to really develop. And I think I'm like you and a lot of other people, as I read the novel, think really stood out to me.
Yeah.
And I think it's because he's in opposition to her. Conflict in a story creates energy.
And so,
so when he's conniving and manipulating Roz to his own for his own needs, there's a lot of energy that comes out of that. And also, I never saw him as really an evil character. I think he's like the other animals.
He's just like a father, I think.
Yeah, he's just trying to survive. And I have to say, Pedro Pascal, who did the voice, he did a lot for us.
Swimming's easy. I can teach him the way my mom taught me. Swim!
He brought there was a particular line. It's no longer in the film. It was for a while. And there used to be a bit where Roz held up that little iPad-looking thing. The tablet, and it had accessories that you could order, and Fink understood that maybe he can order some of these things because he was looking to enrich himself and because he considers the robot sort of his. So he was like, if I ordered these things, my robot can get even better. Eventually, we let go of this, but the line was, "Ooh, can we get that?" Because he saw something he liked. And that's the line. But his delivery was, oh, can we get that? And it sounded like a little kid.
Yes.
And it really charmed me. And I thought, first of all, it's very Pedro.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's Fink. He's got an innocence to him that we don't want to lose track of and that we want to really enhance. So then I think I started on a path of giving him more damage and more dimension. So I hope I hit all the parts of your question, but yeah, so making room for characters to really develop. In the novel, there are 3 bears. And I knew I wanted to make that, immediately I knew I wanted to make that one bear. There was also a bit where friendships happened with the bears very quickly. And I wanted to hold all that off until Roz earned it through the wintertime storm and that kind of stuff. So finding the right pace was something that we were always attending to.
Yeah. So after hearing your answer, I think you put a lot of attention to the logic and the pace. Another big difference I find is about the fire. In the novel, the robot teaches the animals on the island to use fire, to use the human tool of fire to keep warm in a cold winter, and finally caused the forest fire. By contrast, in the movie, the fire was caused by robot and the global dynamics. I want to know whether there are specific considerations behind this adaptation. So what is your reason for doing this? Maybe because after I watching the movie, I think you may want to convey some themes of the movie, maybe. So I want to know why you made this change.
There's a specific thing about the end of the book that we wanted to preserve, which was that Roz feels compelled to exit at the end. And I needed that to be 100% believable. So only thing I could really think of, what a human presence on that island that could lay waste to the whole thing on a scale that would tell Roz, if I stay here, everyone is going to be really in danger. And the answer was a fire. It's also very reminiscent of, there was a fire in Bambi that I never forgot. It was one of the most amazing things I'd ever seen. That's why I rewrote the way that fire and the relationship of fire to the story as a kind of a slate wiper, if you will, that would wipe out the entire island. So she understands that was linked to her. She didn't cause it, but it was linked to her, and that she needs to remove herself from the situation so that possibility will never exist again unless she corrects things.
Okay, I understand. Thanks for adding the details. I think I can understand the story much better. Actually, all of my questions is finished. I bring my son's painting. He really loves painting, and he loves this movie, and he drew some paintings. This one, it's his work. He's 5 years old, and I want to know, would you mind signing autographer to this? And maybe it will encourage him a lot, because
I want to say, this is officially our very first fan art of all time. This is it. This is the first fan art I've ever seen. This is fantastic.
When I come here, he asked me that do not show this to Chris. And I asked him why, because he said, hey, add a horse to here. The horse didn't show in the movie. He worried, hey, add a horse to here.
I have to say, I can't draw horses at all. I have struggled with horses, and I will not try to draw one. That's way better than any horse I can draw. I have to say that the anatomy on that, and the way the head and the neck and especially this area here, this is where I cannot figure it out, and that looks really right to me. He's got a really good control of the anatomy under there. That's really amazing.
And also this book, I bought this book. And I have a friend who is, this one. He's my friend.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, maybe you can sign
Yeah.
your word.
Remind me your name and spell it.
My name?
Yeah.
Candice. Candice.
Candice.
Yes. Wow, so cute. I feel so honored. Thank you for your time and also your sincerity. I will definitely encourage all my followers to go and see this movie. I wish this movie is great success.
Oh, thank you so much. Great questions. It was really fun talking. And I don't want to steal your pen, because I will.
My son also has a video for you. Sorry. Video? Oh, yes, video.
Hello, Mr. Sanders. I'm Lola. Nice to meet you. I have a question.
Oh,
哎呦喂，
没关系 it's okay.
Why does Flavius fly so fast with smaller wings?
My answer is because I think that he's got a really strong heart. I think that it's not just your physical being. I think it's what's inside of you that is the most important thing about whether or not you can do something. I really appreciate that, and tell him thank you for the question.
Thank you.
And I continue to encourage him. He's very talented.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks for your time and your
Thank you.
sincerity. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.